Hello and welcome to Stop Now. I'm JK, your host for this week episode. I'm joined by Amar, and the main man like Nate is missing today in action, but we have Josh, our special guest here. He has been with us the last 1 year. I don't know, a year before. Help me out, Josh. Welcome to our show. How are
Yeah,
you
great to
doing?
be here. Yeah, it's probably been a year since we've spoken or so. Yeah, but it's been great. Doing awesome.
So for our audience, right, how would you introduce, right? So what do you do?
So the big thing I focus on is bringing humanity back to business. It's really just that simple, being human beings in business again, and helping people really say what they want to say, truthfully, honestly, but in a compelling way that draws their ideal clients to them. So some people call it personal branding. I call myself the identity archaeologist because I get to do all that digging. I get to find that person's uniqueness, bring it to the surface, knock off all the crap conditioning, and then we get to refine their genius, their purpose, mission, vision, and we get to polish it until it shines so bright. People come from thousands of miles to come see it. So that's what gets me out of bed every morning is seeing other people shine.
Wow, that's amazing. Again, I can't put that in word, you put it beautifully, but then uh, again, Amar, help me out, being a co-host, you can ask any question, you can jump in and interrupt me. I don't want to take over the entire thing of questioning. So, Josh, we discussed, I believe, last time as well. So, why the identity, right? Do we all have a crisis as a human to identify ourselves with name, nationality, or whatever we do?
Yeah, that's a great question and a big question. So we're born. So let's put it this way. The everyone a question people like to ask is like, who are you, right? Like, who are you? Tell me who you are. You got to know who you are. And I think that's the wrong question. I think the right question we need to be asking is what are you? So who are you is where you were born, how you were raised, religion, race, creed, all that kind of stuff. And it's made you a beautiful person. But what are you? By the way, the who are you is not your decision. That first part of your life, you don't usually get to choose your name. You don't get to choose where you were born, your parents, your society, your religion, all that stuff gets chosen for you. So there's a point in life where you're like, you got to ask a different question. It's not who are you, it's what are you, which means you get to choose now. What is your life going to mean? What is this identity that you need to bring to the surface that you're saying, damn it, this is what I'm willing to devote my life to. Here's what here's what I'm willing to fight for, and here's what I'm willing to fight against. Right? I'm going to stand for justice. Now I'm going to stand against racism. Whatever that is, we have to come to a place where we define that for ourselves and we're willing to dedicate the rest of our lives to it. That's identity. And just a different question that we have to answer than who we are. Because I think sometimes it gets muddled together. And I want to separate those two. I want you to choose everything moving forward, not be stuck with the past and all the choices that were made for you, including all the biases and the conditioning that we've gone through. So that's a short, very, very short answer. I don't know if that you want me to go deeper, but that's kind of like the high level about identity.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Again, I don't want to dive deep into it right away, but then just on the surface, right? So what you said is like we can change our name, we can change our religion, or we can pretend to be like somebody else. All that is possible. You can't choose your parents, right? So you have
Right.
you cannot change your past, right? That's basically what you're saying, right? Uh,
That's right. So we borrow a lot of this stuff. We borrow all that stuff that was given to us or told to us. We hold on to it so tight. And yes, it's made us who we are, but it doesn't have to make us what we are. And by the way, we see this in corporate. How many people borrow an identity from their corporation? I'm VP of Exxon. I'm CEO of, Hungry Howie's, right? And we wear this label, we wear this identity like a badge of honor. And then what happens is Hungry Howie's lays us off, or we leave Hungry Howie's, and we're no longer the VP, and that identity stays with the company. and we're left wondering, who the heck are we? What are we? We're essentially lost. And that's the shame. Every time we borrow someone else's identity, we lose a little piece of ourselves. That's what I'm trying to fight against. That's what I want people to realize. Like, once you have your own identity, it doesn't matter who you work for, whether you own a business, you work for someone else, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're still the same person, and it's true to you, it's authentic, it's real. And let me tell you, it's a fantastic way to wake up every day, knowing exactly why you put 2 feet on the ground.
So you, Josh, help me understand here, right? So you are not a therapist, right? So you're not a psychologist.
No, I'm not licensed.
You sound
No,
like
I don't want to go that route. No, thanks. I don't want to be in the box. To me, that's just licensing and certifications. Those are fine, but those are also boxes. You know what? I used to be a licensed financial advisor, and there were things I wanted to tell people that I couldn't. I wanted to tell them the truth, but the regulation said I couldn't. I'm not going into any more boxes. I'm going to share the truth. I'm going to tell people the way it is, and take it or leave it. That's up to you.
help me out, Josh. I might miss like a year with meeting so many people. We tend to lose connection, right? So what prompted you to do this, right? So again, is this focused on corporate world, like, or people who are in the rat race, crazy, losing their own self identity with being human centric? They do harsh things.
Mhm.
That prompt you to do this, or what made you to go on this journey?
Well, I grew up as a soldier. I was the good soldier. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I did everything I was told to do. So I was the obedient one. I was the conditioned. I was told, Josh, keep your head down. Don't make waves. Follow the rules, and it's all going to work out. And as most people probably know listening to this for sure, that's a lie. That you do not get success by following the rules, by doing what other people are telling you to do. But that's what I did. And I got into corporate. I was an engineer for 20 years. I climbed the ladder. I was a manager, multi 6 figures. So I was considered successful by my friends. And then little by little, everything I thought was right wasn't so right. I got some wake up calls. I got some realizations. I started diving deep into psychology, human behavior. I started getting exposed to different things. And I was like, it's kind of a point where you start seeing the code in the matrix. You're like, you see the glitches, you can't unsee it. So I couldn't sit in a cubicle, what I call my little gray jail cell. I couldn't do that anymore. And I knew I had to get out. But I didn't know what to do. So I got into financial industry for a while. I was in the gym industry. I was running a 20,000 square foot gym out in Oregon, owner, operator. So I was doing the entrepreneurship thing. And then one day I was like, time out. What are you doing, Josh? Where's this all going? So I said, all right, what's your genius? Where do you want to play? What is your talent, your skills you built up over all these years? And what are you passionate about? What is that stand? What is that cause that you want to have an effect on the world with? And I took all that and I crystallized that. And that's where this came from, where the personal branding identity archaeologist, because my heart goes out to those people, whether they're in corporate or they just left corporate and they're striking off on their own. They're trying to really bring their genius or their gift to the world, and they're struggling. They're struggling with clarity about why they are in this business or why they exist. They're struggling with articulating that mission, that values, those things that they want to say. And that happens to be my genius. So I just felt the responsibility. So anyone in corporate, anyone getting out of corporate that needs to get clarity on exactly why they're in business, which is their one differentiator, and how to articulate it to a world in a way where you don't have to sell. You just have to be honest and attract your people to you. I just felt this is my calling. This is what I'm designed to do, and it's easy for me. So it's kind of unfair too, which is I want everyone to be have that unfair advantage in business where they're just like, this is easy. This is how it should be. It should be natural. It should be simple. So that's kind of why, and this is where I am. This is where I'm going to be forever. There's no question. I may dabble in some other things. I'm very passionate about social justice. I'm passionate about politics and other things. But this is where I really where I'm going to play business wise forever.
All right. So that is an individual choice, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Mhm.
So you made that choice. What do you think, like, about others who are not able to make that choice? How do they make that? It's like calling for you, right? So you just
Yeah.
woke up one day and you realize, like, this is what I'm going to do. Like all that I've done. Just kind of help me out understanding, like, how anyone can make that decision, right? What do you like suggest to people, like, who ask you to help you out on this?
Yeah. First step, forget about money. That's the number one killer. The moment most people, when they talk about business or doing something or getting a job, they think about how much money can I make? Let me tell everyone something, be very clear about this. Everything is monetizable. If you're providing value, I don't care what it is, you're providing any kind of value, you get value in return. That's how the universe balances. It has to happen that way over time, at least long term. So got to forget about money and answer a question like this instead. There's a lot of questions, but here's one. If you were paid in happiness, so money's gone, right? No more money, but happiness is the national currency. So the happier you are, the more wealth and the better life you have, right? Let's just call happiness that currency. If that were the case, if you had to provide value to another person, but in a way that made you happy, what would you do? That's one question you can answer. If you can answer that, if you can say, boy, if I could just do this all day and provide this value to this person and I get paid for that, oh boy, I do that in a heartbeat. Like if you know what that is, fantastic. If you don't know what that is, another question you can tackle, and this takes some introspection. What do you stand for? Or what do you stand against? What pisses you off? I want to know what pisses you off, what gets you emotional, what gets you, like, if you didn't have to worry about food, medicine, money, roof over your head, housing, if all this stuff was taken care of and you just had to go on a mission, if you had to stand against something, like you want to eradicate an evil in the world, or you wanted to stand for something good, what would that be? These are the clues. These are the little pieces you need to answer, and you can start bringing this together. Because again, if you start with that, there's always a way to monetize it. And usually it's more profitable that way. Because remember, people buy you first. They buy your product and service second. So if you show up and you're passionate about something, you're like, man, I'm going to stamp out misogyny, right? We're going to get rid of all this patriarchy. This is my goal. This is what I'm going for. And you're going to bring all that energy to it. That's fantastic. Now there's so many ways to monetize that. But people will buy your mission first, then they will look at the products and services you're offering. And by the way, if they love you, if they love your mission, if they support it, they will buy your product if they need it. That's the easy part. But most people do it backwards. Most people try and find out what makes money. Let me use a product. Let me hide behind my product. Hey, look at my water. Isn't my water beautiful? Don't you want to drink something? And it's like, no, I'm not thirsty, right? And you've lost the deal just like that. So got to answer those core questions. Where does your energy source from? What gets that energy going? What gets you going? What brings you alive? If you can't answer that, I don't care what business you're in, it's going to be a struggle. And it's probably not going to work out without you doing some really bad things. Welcome to capitalism, by the way. It's kind of how it works. But
Yeah, I appreciate that. Like, Josh, I always feel energized when I talk to you, right? So you bring that passion, and it's, again, I am going a little bit deeper. I don't want to offend you, or it's more of a hard questions uh, for someone like who is not able to understand, right? Not able to relate with what you are saying. Okay, they might say like, oh, fuck off, man, like I don't want like the scrap thing, right? It's easy for him to talk about it. Where do I get opportunities, right? How do I make those choices? Like I'm in a trap. I can't make those choices. I just have to, even if I hate my job, I have to do my job. Where is the solution in this? Like, because you just made it so easy, right? When you tell that, like, just happiness is like best thing like anyone can get it, right? When you are happy doing something and on top of it, you are getting paid for it. Yes, definitely. Everybody wants that life. Everybody is in pursuit of happiness, right? So I believe that's what the Constitution also says. But then that's not what people work for. So how does that struggle you see in your clients or in any other activity that like you come across with people?
Really good question. So let's be clear about something. Whether you stay at your job or your 3 jobs, or whether you get into entrepreneurship and try and make that work somehow, it's going to be a struggle. Life is struggle, and that's not a bad thing. The seed struggles, when it germinates, that's a struggle to break through. Not all seeds actually sprout. Nature requires work to be done for there to be a harvest. You can't have apples if you don't plant the tree, right? So we focus on struggle we put a negative context around it, and we're like, well, I don't want to get into entrepreneurship because that's hard. Well, guess what? You got to look at the other side of the coin. Staying at your job, renting an income. First of all, realize companies don't pay you. There is not a single company on this planet that actually pays you as a person. They pay a position. As you occupy that position, the money goes to you also, but they're not paying you. The moment you croak, the moment you leave, the moment something happens to you, they put another warm body in there. They put another human battery. So the first step for someone who feels like they're stuck is, first of all, to realize that it's a struggle if they stay where they are. It's a struggle if they leave. So we can't be afraid of struggle. The question we have to ask is, what's the ROI? See, I can go out of my yard right here and I can start digging holes. And I could put a lot of energy into it. I could be dead tired at the end of the day, and that can just suck, right? And now that's it, right? So if I stop with that, I put all that effort and I got nothing in return except an ugly yard. But what if I dug those holes and I planted seeds? Apples, oranges, grapefruit, whatever. I'm in Florida, so, talking citrus. Now, yes, I put the same amount of work. It was just as much of a struggle. It was just as difficult. But now I will eventually get a harvest. I will have an ROI. So here's the question. If you stay at your job, if you stay stuck, if you're not willing to entertain anything else, what is the ROI from that? I can't answer that for you. I don't know where you're at, what your conditions are, but you've got to answer that for you. Versus, what's the risk? What's the struggle if I go off and I start a side hustle, I start a business, I start following something that energizes me? You've got to answer both those questions. You can't look at one side of the coin. I see that way too often. That's the number one struggle I see with people, is they're like, well, entrepreneurship's hard. Yeah, well, so is renting an income and not getting paid what you're worth. That's a struggle too. And that's a struggle where you don't get a good ROI typically, right? Because you could be loyal to a company for 20 years and they just change management and you're gone. All that loyalty, all that trust you thought you built up, gone in a heartbeat, because you own nothing. You were just renting a desk. You were renting the coffee by the water cooler. All that was just pure rental. So I just think this is a big question though, by the way. This is big into mindset. This is big into understanding how nature works, because that's ultimately what wins. Having a natural mindset, which is an entrepreneurial mindset, where corporate is more of an unnatural mindset. When you're in that corporate box, it's not a very natural place. You could be the hardest worker and have the smallest harvest, but in nature, that's not possible. You work harder than me, your harvest is bigger. Nature doesn't care my race, my gender, my background, where I came from, where I'm going, doesn't care. It's a pure meritocracy out there. But in corporate, at a job or your 3 jobs, it's not a meritocracy. And that's why you're probably not going to win doing that long term. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not telling people leave their job tomorrow, but hopefully this is making sense. Like, we just have to start realizing there's other avenues, and whether or not they are difficult is irrelevant, because every avenue is difficult. If it's part of life, it's difficult, and that's okay.
Again, I don't want like to take already Amar is pissed off. Like you are not letting me ask any question. Go for it, Amar. I'm sorry.
Hi Josh, nice to meet you here. Yes, you are right. You are a motivated person and you are a smart person. I appreciate you. And you know, all we are in a crisis point nowadays. So many problems we are facing in our daily life, and sometimes we feel disappointed. We think we cannot do anything, or I cannot do anything. I am not suitable for this. So many questions come to our mind. I mean, negative question. So, how we can overcome those negative questions from our mind? What's your thought?
Good question. There's a lot of ways to do that. One of the things that helped me was because when I was in engineering, I was negative, skeptical, pissed off all the time. I was just in that, I was not in a good place. So I did some personal development. Yes, I was reading some books, but really I started hanging out with different people that kind of intimidated me. They were doing better than me in business, in life. They were thinking more broadly. They had a little more open mindset than I did. And it rubbed off on me. So associations matter, environment matters. And I started realizing that I was consuming, prior to these folks, I was consuming, we eat bad food, and we get fat, and and it's like, oh, I hate this. But there's more than one way to consume something. Like I was listening to things that would just piss me off. I was reading stuff that wasn't helping me move forward. So I think associations and environment is huge if you have access to it. And the nice thing about the internet, and now that we're in the digital age, the world effectively is a lot smaller. Everyone has access to something. There's always a way, even if you have to go to a public library, borrow the internet, and get on there and start start associating with people that are closer to where you want to be, not where you are. Because we tend to associate with people like us. The problem is now we're all just anchoring each other. We're just all dead, kind of like dead weights holding each other down. You want to find people and information and books. Heck, if there's even, this is a great way to start. If there's a person you admire, go read their biography. Do you realize you could take someone's 80 or 90 or 100 years of existence, and somebody has written a biography of them in about 300 pages? You can get all the golden nuggets. You can get all the insight, all their wisdom, experience, all in about 300 pages. You don't have to spend 100 years with them. So there are resources out there, and that's one of the first steps I would recommend, because that mindset has got to change. We always get in life what we feel we deserve. So if we expect to be crapped on and peed on and all this stuff, then yeah, that's what we're going to end up getting. We got to start this. It all starts here. And I know it sounds simple, but it's not. I'm not trying to make it sound easy, but it's got to start somewhere. Find a mentor, even if it's in your community. It doesn't have to be someone rich and wealthy. You don't have to like try and get Jeff Bezos or someone like or Oprah Winfrey to mentor you. Just find someone that you trust, that you respect, and ask for some time. Most people are so happy to share time with you, right? If you just ask. So I don't know if that answers your question. I mean, there's so many things, that we can get into, but that was one that just popped in my head as a good starting point for people that really feel like they don't have anything or don't have access, or they're just in that really bad place. Start hanging out with people that are in better places.
That's wonderful. Again, Josh, I can't relate more on that. But have you ever felt across like people saying like you sounded like more of a philosophical way of preaching things? Like, is it like it sounded for me like more like a Buddhism, right? Life is a suffering and you have to know the cause and effect of it, and with the right condition you can uh, pursue happiness in the right way. You should have the right view. So are you into religion, or is it like religion must for people to be spiritual or find happiness and all these things?
Yeah, and another huge question, but no, I don't do religion or cults. I don't believe in fairy tales. I do know that everything is energy, right? And energy can take a lot of different forms. So no, as far as organized religion, like, well, this God is better than your God, and like, I don't play those games. That's kind of silly. And you know, and if you actually look at history of religion, the stories are just repeated. You know, all our modern day religions are really based on prior religions. So if anything, I would say it's spirituality, like understanding energy. I do find a lot of really, in fact, I'm reading a book by Osho called The Book of Secrets. And it's just so fascinating to understand how to live in the present and get out of your own mind, get out of because your mind lives in the past and the future, right? You're either hanging on and pissed off about the past, or you're worried about what's going to happen in the future. But because of that, you can never be in the present. So I like stuff like that. That just helps me be more centered, realize what I am, I suppose, you know, my essence, as opposed to my body or my mind. So things like that. But religion in general, I find is very harmful. It usually saps people's power, right? It takes power away from people and puts it in some central figure, you know, whether it be alive or dead. And that's not good. And
Oh,
there's a lot to that, by the way. I can go on for months and months on religion and different ones and how it works, but I don't think you want to get into that here.
absolutely. Again, you are one of my favorite person, right? To mention these things again. Again, if Nate was there, like we would have gone for us, like discussing and debating on these things. You are an archaeologist, like trying to dig into deeper on these things. And one of my favorite, as you mentioned, like Osho, he's amazing person as such. Book of Understanding and Book of Secrets are, I'm very fond of reading it again and again.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That is something like I find it like fascinating for religious people not to accept these things, right? So they just are stuck in the dead weight kind of thing, as you mentioned, right, in the past, and they just have one faith and stick to it and say that like this is the right path, and they are struggling, right? That itself becomes a suffering.
That's right. And they didn't even choose the religion. That's the worst part. They didn't choose a religion, and most religions modern day are built on self-oppression. So they don't oppress you. They teach you to oppress yourself. You're worthless without me. In fact, it really is kind of a domestic abuse situation. If you think about how like a lot of men will abuse women mentally in domestic violence situations. You're nothing without me. You'll never be. The only right way is through me. I mean, all these things are in modern day religion, especially the Abrahamic religions. So they teach you to oppress yourself, which is especially evil, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I don't want to take much of your time with short notice, like you have accepted and uh,
Hey,
popped up immediately as a friend, like, oh, I'm ready. Like whenever you are, you want me to be there, like you came in, and thank you so much for that. And we really
of
appreciate.
course.
We would love to have a regular conversation with you. And how was your other life activities are going on? What is your message you want to give as a final thought or comment?
No, life activities are going well. Final thought. There's so much good stuff. So I would say, I don't know why this is coming to mind, but some of the questions you've asked, where it sounded like you were representing people that were pretty much saying, I can't, right? I can't do that. I have no other options. Like there's a lot of I can't there. So I want to challenge everyone. One question here. If you say you can't do something, fine. All right, you believe you can't, I get it. But if you had to, here's the question I want everyone to answer. If you had to, in other words, gun to your head, you're getting shot and you're dying, in which case nothing freaking matters anyways. Gun to your head, if you had to, how would you? So I get it, you can't do it, right? I can't do entrepreneurship. I can't start my own company. I'm working 3 jobs. I got 3 kids. I've got all this stuff going on. I'm a minority. The system's against me, which is 100% true, right? If I poke my head out, the police are going to shoot me, which is 100% true. Like all this stuff, I get it, right? But if you had to start a business, otherwise you're dead, how would you? And I want people just to ponder that. I want you just to like start thinking about, if you absolutely had to, how would you do it? And see what opens up. And I'll just leave it at that. That's my gift for today. How about?
Absolutely wonderful. Again, we really enjoyed the conversation. Again, we can do it like regularly if you agree to it. And
Absolutely. Let's get more specific into topics, because we could deep dive into so many things.
Yes, absolutely, Josh, right? And we had a similar kind of struggle with people who wanted to work with us, and that's why like I brought those things, and I was not prepared with the questions, and probably we can revisit again like in the next episode as a part 2 or a continuous series with you, and it looks like a amazing thing to talk about. And
Yeah, this is fun.
Yeah, it's really great to meet you.
all right.
Likewise, Amar.
That's Josh for us, and that's all for this week episode. Thank you all, and continue to watch our channel. Bye for now.
Yeah.
Bye.